is up, you guys? Welcome back to Civics. Last week we covered some civics basics that hopefully will give us some good vocabulary that we can use going forward in the year. The first thing that you were asked to define was, what is a state? After looking at your source, it seems that most of you arrived at some sort of definition close to this one. A state is a body of people living in a defined space with the power to make and enforce laws and an organization to do this. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but each one of those pieces is an important part of what is a state. You were also asked to list the 4 roles of government. Maybe we take it for granted and just assume that of course we have a government. But as students and informed citizens, we should ask ourselves, why do we need a government? What does a government actually do? Hopefully you were able to pull out these 4 roles for government. The first role the government has is to make laws, and we elect representatives to help in this process. The second role is to protect the state. And remember, the state is the country. The clearest example of this role is maintaining a military. The third role of government is to maintain order inside the state. This means it's the government's job to enforce the laws that we help create. And the fourth and final role is to provide services to the people. In fact, as students at a public school, you are receiving one of those services right now. But these services can also include maintaining roads and other things. Can you imagine if we were all responsible for maintaining a certain part of a road? It'd be a pretty hard thing to maintain, and it probably wouldn't get done. Now that you have an idea of what a state is and what the role of a government is to the state, now I want us to take a closer look at what your role is in the state. Let's take a look at your assignment this week. This week's assignment is all about you. Many people in this country believe that everyone is either on the right, conservative, or on the left, liberal. These are words that adults throw around a lot, but my hope is to show you that it's usually a little more complicated than that, but in a good way. Part of being an informed and active citizen is reflecting on what you value, and then asking yourself why. Some issues might seem more important to you than others, and that's okay. Your political values will change or be strengthened as you grow, live, and learn. You'll start by watching my YouTube video, then follow the link below to the 8 Values Political Test, and click Take the Test when you arrive. That's this link right here. You'll be asked 70 questions that you can either agree, disagree, or remain neutral on. Remember, it's up to each of us to balance our gut feelings with our ability to think logically. If either of these things control us completely, history shows us that bad things can happen. So take your time, talk to your family members if needed, and then decide for yourself where you stand on some of these issues. When you're finished, save the picture of your results and submit it for this assignment using the Add or Create button. If you would prefer not to share your results, just send me a message and we can find an alternative way to show that you completed it. Maybe you know this already, there are a ton of tests like this out there on the internet, but the reason I like this one is that it's not all about Republicans and Democrats. A lot of the times, especially during election season, it's easy to see the world as left or right. But people are more complicated than that, and values are what drive our decisions. They are what tell us when something feels American or feels un-American. The first part, or axis, of this values test is to determine what side of the economic issues do you tend to fall on. Are you someone who believes that the government should stay out of the market completely? Or are you someone who believes that the government should have a lot of control and then redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor? Or are you somewhere in the middle? The second axis is about diplomatic issues. These are questions that have to do with what place you think the United States has in the world. As one of the strongest nations on earth, do we have an obligation to bring peace and democracy to other parts of the world? Or should we be working hand in hand with other countries and investing more power in things like the United Nations? The third axis is about civil issues. In other words, how much freedom do we have as citizens to do what we want? And how tough can the government be when we don't do what they want us to do? And finally, we have the societal axis. These are questions to determine how traditional you are versus how much you value progress. Are we better off keeping things the way they are, or are we better off making some changes? Keep in mind that this is an intentionally low-key, low-stress assignment because I know I gave you 2 assignments last week. One of those was an ongoing assignment about the presidential election that's going on. There are 4 debates that are scheduled to happen. One of them happened last week, one of them is happening this week on Wednesday, and the next 2 are happening over the next few weeks. For this class, you only need to watch 2 of those 4 debates. That is your update for this week. I hope you guys are doing well, enjoying the class so far, and I will see you soon.